Someone had made a comment the other day about my turtle shell bone, which you see right here. In fact, they were nice enough to point out that it's not a shell, it's the bone of the shell, and that the actual shell covering or scales normally or might stay on there if it's preserved that way, but normally might fall off. So this is a bone, a turtle shell bone. And they mentioned my drawing, which I had originally planned on doing a long time ago, and because of packing and all the other things going on, I haven't gotten to it. So I just want to say that I have added it back on my list of things to get done in the near future. Now, if you're going to do this is, well, so here's your subject. You have several choices on how you can do this. A lot of my drawing experience is botanical illustration, which is detailed, scientific, simple, direct, and depicts the different, in that case, parts of a flower. When you have a biological specimen like this, which is a little different than a plant, but similar, you first you look at it and you say, okay, what does this do for me? How do I want to depict this? So what comes to mind right away are pencils, doing it in pencil, and I've got both Conti drawing pencils and Faber-Castell drawing pencils. Both of these are in several different grades of lead, going from some of the H levels to the B levels, with B being the softest and H, like a 2H, is a very hard lead. And the harder leads, the H leads, you actually need a set like this that gives you a range, because the softer leads, the B leads, are going to make a very dark line, and the H leads are going to make a very light line. And your initial drawing should be as light as possible, because you're going to be developing it. So I've got my pencils out. The next step, you're going to have to make a light pencil drawing no matter what you do from there on, if you want to depict this as a natural subject. Of course, you have the choice of oil pastels, oil paint, acrylics, any of those type of media where you could, even the sumi, just brush it in quickly, brush it in detailed, but this is more about the drawing of it. So you need at least 2 different pencils. These are also mechanical pencils, but I keep all B leads in my mechanical pencils, and I go by the thickness of the line. So I would start with the thinnest line, and then probably, if I were doing it all in pencil, finish with the thickest line for detail or accent. And this is just the first video of this, but at first I figured, okay, I'm more or less going to depict this like this on the paper. But then it's more interesting. I'm going to turn the paper sideways so it's left to right, and I'm going to put this like this. And then over here I'm going to have it like this, because as you look at this, the most interesting thing about this is actually the inside. And I could be wrong, but I think that's spinal column. I'm not a turtle person really, but I think that is where the spinal column would be. This is why it's so important that when you find a turtle on the street, you pick it up very carefully. There are videos on YouTube on how to pick up a turtle, because, you know, everything inside here is all soft tissue. And if I'm right, and that's their spinal column, it's very easy to harm them. But that's the most interesting item. So I can go from, I'm going to start with a pencil drawing. I can then either accent it with colored pencils, watercolor, markers. You could even do it in ballpoint ink if you wanted to push the envelope a little bit. I'm going to start as like a scientific drawing. I'll be turning the paper sideways, depicting the side of the bone, and then this on the other side. And it's just a very interesting challenge, especially for me. I'm a floral illustrator for the most part, and yet this is a part of nature. This would be in a garden, in a water pond, in, I think it's a box turtle. It could be anywhere in the woods. So you might run into one in your garden. So it's related, and I'm going to keep it related to my botanicals by doing it in the same way. So if you want to draw, first of all, there is a picture of it, and you can pause the video if you want to use this as an example. And I'll get this in better light. So you can see the shape of the bone areas and the sides, and then the inside. And notice there's a little dip right here. You can find them on eBay. You can buy your own. It would be much easier to have your own to draw. I'm going to start with pencil, and then I may finish it up, because there are colors reflected in this. I may finish it up with colored pencil. I don't know yet. But to start, this is Strathmore drawing paper. You could also use Bristol board or any of the better hot press papers. And I'm going to start, probably, the Faber-Castell are my normal go-to pencil set, which I have a few of. I think there are 10 pencils, there might be 12. And I start with the lightest, draw it in, and then develop it in graphite. And graphite can be gorgeous. And it takes a fine eye to catch the detail. And pencil itself is so inexpensive. If you don't want to buy art pencils, I found a manufacturer in the United States who still makes American pencils. And I'll put the link in the video. I'll do another video when I get the initial drawing done.